Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. Um, Today I have a whiteboard and I'm in a much different place, but it should be fun. We're going to be getting into some dark territory in this video, but it has every inspirational intention behind it. So a lot of what I'm saying might sound a little crazy, but trust me, it's all true because it's just it's research. It's not opinion. I'm not. This is none of my opinion. This is just you know it's almost like I'm going into the history of some of this and let's go back to we'll start everything by going back far, right? So let's well let me tell you. All right, so we're going to be talking about cell injury. Um, cell like the unit of life, right? Just like self is the unit of life, and how these are basically the exact same in terms of functionality, purpose, um, life cycle. It's incredible seeing it with the eyes of an ancient hermetist. So what am I going to be talking about? I'm gonna drop some knowledge on some ancient um, Egyptian, really ancient hermetic philosophy, and there's seven principles that date back to 10,000 BC that I'm going to talk about, and those are key to understand because I'll explain how they all connect with each other, right? So that'll be the first thing that we cover. But the real meat of what we're going to talk about is cell injury, and cell injury is where all disease comes from. If your cells are healthy, you are healthy, right? So we're going to talk about how that exactly relates to self injury. And that's not necessarily, I'm not talking like a suicidal type thing, but we will talk about that. But like, that just means like whatever can injure yourself is exactly the same way that cells can become injured and die. So that's going to be pretty crazy. And what affects this a lot of the times, if it's not the actual self, then it's something else. It's an external stimulus of some sort. Um, so we're going to be talking about demons and parasites and how those two relate. So let's get started. So the Kybalion came out 10,000 years ago and was devised, or I mean, it was written by a man, or if he even is a man, um, Hermes Trismegistus, right? So he's an ancient Hermetic philosopher that a lot of people, a lot of scholars believe derived from two archetypes of deities from Egypt, which would be the god Thoth, um, you know, god of, I'm not going to say the god of knowledge, but he was known for basically holding the keys of truth. And Hermes from Greece. So you have the ancient Egyptian god and Hermes, the ancient Greek god, who both form Hermes Trismegistus supposedly. Or maybe he was his own person, or maybe he wasn't. It doesn't really matter. It's not necessarily about the messenger. It's about the message, right? So he wrote the Kybalion, right? And the Kybalion has principles that hold true to this day. Oh, one second. Sorry about that. So, seven main principles of life, 10,000 years ago, still hold true to this day. Um, let's start with the very first one, right? believe it's the principle. Instead of writing principle out, I'm just going to read the main things. Right. So vibration. Um, all life has to move. All life requires movement. For if we stagnate, whether it's our cells or our self, we will die. All life will die if it doesn't grow, move, change. That's a, these are true principles. So vibration, principle of rhythm. All life undergoes rhythm, right? So if you have your atom, you know, we'll be getting into some anatomy, but an atom has a rhythm, right? It's an infinite three-dimensional loop that goes around the nucleus, right? The electron and the proton, positive and negative. And that's the next principle too. Everything, not only does everything vibrate and have rhythm, but it also has polarity. So everything that exists in the world exists on a scale. There's no, like, doesn't matter what you have, there's a scale to it. You know, everything. You can't find something that doesn't exist on a scale from one point to another point. Um, and it's so true. And you know, this kind of goes in with another principle right after it, gender. Everything has an opposite. Um, I don't, you know, a lot of people say that gender itself is on a scale, but that's a separate, like, that's principle of polarity, but principle of gender is just trying to say that there's a positive and negative, or a male and a female to every situation, everything. So there's three more. The fifth one is correspondence, the principle of correspondence. I don't know if I spelled that right. But everything. Now this is where the phrase "as above, so below" comes from, because it truly is a direct correspondence from that which is above to that which is below. Um, Much like you see in a tree, um, and having its roots that are below, or the fact that we, as our own units of life, have cells which are their own units of life within them, and we are a part of a bigger universe, microcosm. We are a macrocosm to the microcosm in our universe, and we are a microcosm to the macrocosm of this universe. There's a connection to everything. Everything has to come from the same source, right? Correspondence. We also, of course, then have cause and effect. So for everything that could be caused, there's going to be an effect that comes with it. There's no causation that does not come with an effect, and a causation always has come from an effect. It's this loop, it's this correspondence. There has to be a correspondence to it. For every effect, there's a cause, and for every cause, there's an effect. So there's no such thing as chance. Um, Things happen for a reason, basically, once you start to look at it this way. Next is the principle. We talked about principle effect, and the last one, which is, you know, probably the most important or coolest one in my opinion, is the principle of mentalism. You know, all is mind, and it has to be, because just for us to be experiencing life, we wouldn't be able to if we didn't have our mind. Our mind is above our body. Our mind controls our body. So the very fact that we have existence and we have everything is from our mind. All is mind. So everything that happens has to be a result of a mental state which precedes it. For anything to exist, you know, thoughts have to form first, and that forms physical reality. or manifestation. And you might be thinking, wow, you're full of shit right now. But listen, so we have to have thoughts. Thoughts and thought are right there. That's funny. So we have to have thoughts to produce words. And words are what distinguish our reality. And this isn't just words that we speak. Our DNA, which is deoxygenated ribonucleic acid, it's double stranded um, sine waves, basically. But that's beside the point. It's the connections that make a gene and a genome um, are different combinations of words. So we have, if we were to break apart that, it's kind of small, but yeah, it's too small. Make it a little bigger. All right. So in between here, we have different combinations, right? So this may be AG, TC, CT, AG, you know what I mean? Any different combination um, could be present to express a certain phenotype in a person. And a phenotype is basically a characteristic of yourself. And if we look at the word phenotype, which I'll pull up on here to show you guys, it has a lot of, it has a way deeper meaning than I thought it did, right? So we'll get back to that in a minute. Because what I'm trying to say right now is DNA is composed of words. It's a language, it's a code. So for this to have happened must have come from a thought or something that designed this, right? So a mind is what can create a thought. So all is mind. It has to be, for there to be um, this type of complex thing that exists in nature must be because of words, right? Words really do have a lot of power because I don't know if you guys have seen. There's been studies done where there's 10 different bottles of water, and they measured the shape of the water and how it would change in response to words and different types of music, um, and the effects were outstanding. So, for example, they played a classical, Mozart type piece of music, and the shape of the water was crystalline and perfect in shape, right? It looked like a snowflake. And then they played like heavy metal music, some corn or something. And but anyways, yeah, let's get back on track. So those are the 7 principles. All is mind, right? So now this is where we come into integrating this, because what does this really mean? So I'm gonna leave these principles up here. Um, that was just a quick little rundown of the Kybalion and the 7 hermetic principles. Um, so we'll see a little more on how those kind of play into everything. And I'm gonna leave phenotype up there because we're gonna go back to that.